how Indonesia crushed Dutch colonizers.
Whoa! We did like a independence video, seeing some stuff about that, and we were just a bit confused on the video, like the history of the independence movement, because it just kind of showed clips. Now we get to actually learn exactly what's happening.
In the last video, we mentioned how in America we never learned about the War of Independence in Indonesia. It's crazy and sad that we didn't learn about such a big event for like such a huge country in the world. So this is our high school education right here. We should have got in this video.
I mean,
right
America
now.
didn't seem like based off what we saw in the other video, it seemed like America wasn't involved in Indonesia at all. So I guess American education system. Why would we learn about it if America wasn't involved?
Are you saying it's only America centric, and the only things we learn about are anything related to America, like European history before America actually existed?
Yep, exactly.
But anyways, let's jump right into this, guys. Hopefully you enjoy. Here we go.
Over the course of centuries, Dutch colonizers brought all of Indonesia under one government, known as the Dutch East Indies. But when the Netherlands was occupied by Germany, an Indonesian statesman took his chance. In 1945, he declared independence of the Republic of Indonesia. It would take another 10 years for Indonesia's tumultuous road to independence to end in victory. This is the Indonesian National Revolution with hindsight.
Hindsight. In a way, I'm sure the Dutch colonizing Indonesia the way they did is what made Indonesia like such a large, expansive country, or else all those different groups wouldn't have been like, let's all be a country together.
Yeah, true. In a way, it's a theme that you kind of see in a lot of places where it like unifies the country to fight against something.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like unifying good part of a terrible thing overall.
In 1927,
we gotta go back to Indo
established
soon.
the Indonesian National Party with friends from college. They advocated independence and were against imperialism and capitalism.
The German army storms past the border patrols.
2 years after the Netherlands was invaded by Germany, the Dutch East Indies came under attack by the Japanese. It took them less than 3 months to overrun the entire colony. At first, they were welcomed as liberators, but that sentiment
It's crazy how dominant Japan was in Asia.
Japan recruited forced laborers, and under their watch, hunger was widespread. This killed over 4 million people under Japanese watch.
Wow.
But the Japanese also trained, armed, and educated Indonesian nationalists, and this set the stage for Indonesia's struggle for independence.
That's interesting that Japan would train that?
Yeah,
or is it just a result?
Forced labor, half of like a lot of them, and then they also like trained nationalists.
That's very interesting. I wonder what they thought the benefit of that would be.
Maybe they wanted to continue to rule, so they wanted the nationalists on their side or something.
They're like, this would never go bad for us, right? They like us being here and killing everybody. Odd.
Weird.
August 17th, 1945, Ahmed Sukarno and Mohammed Hatta proclaimed independence from the Netherlands, and they established the Republic of Indonesia. The Japanese surrendered a month later, and the island nation was up for grabs. The Allied forces deployed 1,000 British soldiers to maintain order on the island of Java. A month later, the Dutch sent in troops and announced that they would not negotiate with the independence leaders, but instead they offered them autonomy within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This was unacceptable to Sukarno and Hatta, and a day later they declared war.
Dang. Isn't it crazy that the Dutch, who were just absolutely like ravaged by World War II, still were like, no, we're not gonna dare lose our colony over there. Send in the troops.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's still so much of the history we don't know, but it's pretty crazy for them to not have any empathy after what just happened to them.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, just the colonizer like mindset back then. Just, no, we have to keep it. We make so much money from whatever thing they exported from there. Dang.
the first conflict phase in
It'd be
Indonesia's
pretty
road
crazy for them
to
to still be a
independence.
colony or an autonomous region of the Netherlands.
Yeah, that would
The
be.
Dutch, British, and Indonesian troops clashed on Java and Sumatra. On October 13th, 1945, the war started. 1 year and 1 day later, all parties agreed to a ceasefire. 10,000 people were killed during this conflict, and over 200,000 were displaced.
Dang.
In the first peace talks, the British agreed to withdraw its troops, and this was completed a few months later. The Dutch,
Why the
however,
Brits have to
did
get
not
involved
bend.
too? Because they wanted the Dutch to be next to them in their colonies in
The
the area.
conflict
They were
heated up
working
again
with
in the
the Dutch
first
then?
months of 1947, when Dutch government troops broke the ceasefire in Sumatra, and fighting intensified. This
So the
lasted
Dutch
from
started
December
again.
to March, and during this period, 5,000 people were killed.
Gosh.
The independence leaders and factions opposing the Dutch had to reorganize. The result? The United States of Indonesia. This new formation consisted of the Republic of Indonesia and the island of Borneo. But the meaning of this unification was disputed. The Netherlands, still recovering from World War II, was weakened and partly therefore showed a willingness to negotiate. The Dutch and the Indonesians negotiated for nearly 14 months, and their peace talks culminated towards the end of 1946. Leaders from the Netherlands and the Republic of Indonesia then finally reached a landmark agreement.
Dutch royal family.
Both parties agreed to recognize the Republic of Indonesia, the states of Borneo, and the state of East Indonesia. The status of New
These
Guinea
groups
was
were-
still undecided, and the status of several islands was controversial. But the Netherlands outwardly acknowledged Indonesia's de facto authority in Java, Madura, and Sumatra, and this was lauded internationally as significant progress. The reality, however, was more complicated.
Oh no.
The Dutch and the Indonesians had deep and fundamental differences on how this agreement should be interpreted. With
Yeah, of
hindsight,
course.
we know that only very few expected this to last. After reaching the agreement, the Dutch offered 5 proposals on how it could be implemented, but all were deemed unacceptable by Indonesia. The US offered financial support to Indonesia if they would agree to these terms, and it seemed to work, as it persuaded some leaders to accept a few of these
US
conditions,
throwing around money.
but not all.
Dang
Then the
money.
Netherlands demanded a ceasefire, which Indonesia rejected.
As long as Indonesia didn't want to become a communist country, the US was willing to dish some cash.
They just are an anti-communist all through and through.
All through and through. It's interesting too. I bet this war went so much worse too, because so many of the or for the Dutch, because so many of the soldiers there probably just fought in World War II, and then their country was like, all right, we're sending you to Indonesia. Have
Yeah.
fun.
I'm sure the
They're probably
morale
like, why
wasn't
the
too high.
Yeah, they're probably like, why the heck am I here? I want to go home.
I don't know what the average Dutchman was thinking at that time, but I don't imagine they're the average citizen was too oh yeah, we need Indonesia. Yeah.
No way. No way.
So yeah, that's very interesting.
A foreign country just invaded their land. You think the soldiers probably like, all right, guys, we just got invaded. Maybe we should stop invading this other country too.
Can I go check if my family's still alive, please?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
And this was reason for the Dutch to end all negotiations. Fighting resumed and intensified.
Gosh.
A few weeks after the conflict had reignited, governments of Australia and India brought the matter to the United Nations. They sent observers to monitor the conflict on the ground. The UK and later the United States offered to facilitate negotiations, but the Netherlands showed little to no willingness to talk.
Weird, why?
In July 1947,
They just wanted to hold on to
the
their
Dutch
dang
had
empire
resumed
as long
its
as they
military
could.
activities, and 5 months later, they signed a peace accord with the Indonesian representatives. They met aboard the USS Renville, which was anchored in Jakarta Bay. All parties agreed to recognize a ceasefire along the so-called Van Mook Line. Much of what we now recognize as sovereign territory of Indonesia was then still under Dutch control. But the Dutch desperately wanted to re-establish their entire colony. Little under a year after all parties had promised a ceasefire, the Dutch made a series of military advances. They aggressively fought to gain control over major cities on Sumatra and Java, and by the end of 1949, they had gained the upper hand on both islands. But this series of military successes by the Netherlands was condemned by the international community. The League of Arab Nations voiced support for Indonesia and demanded that the Netherlands would retreat. The UN Security Council continued to order ceasefires, which the Dutch ignored every single time. Then the United States, who had been a powerful ally of the Dutch and who sought to defend its trade relations through Dutch authority in the region, made a critical decision to withdraw its support. This made the Dutch fragile and willing to negotiate.
Wow, US did the right thing?
The United
That
Nations
doesn't happen
formed a new
anymore.
council in January 1949. They mediated negotiations in The Hague, and later that same year, on December 27th, 1949, Indonesia finally gained its independence. Watch one of these two videos next.
Oh, that was
There
quite the
are many
abrupt
more
ending.
momentous-
Yeah,
Wow.
I guess it was. The title was very accurate. How Indonesia crushed Dutch colonizers. As soon as they were crushed, video's over.
See you later.
Dutch were surprisingly not just brutal, but also the aggressors a lot of times.
I mean, the Dutch had a pretty sizable empire at one point. They were like arguably the superpower of the world. I mean, hundreds of years before this happened. But I guess they just wanted to grab on to that last essence of their empire that they had so long ago as long as they could. And they did not want to let go of their big colony that they created, which is just odd, especially after World War II, a time where like independence movements were just huge.
Yeah, it was one of those where they just kept fighting for it, and then in the end they got what they wanted, but then it's like, oh, wait, maybe this is a bad thing, and then it's over.
America saved the day?
America for the win! That's a joke. Indonesia saved their own day.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. If you didn't know, we've actually been to Indonesia, the independent Indonesia.
Oh, yeah, we got to see the dang Jakarta monument thing. It's
Yeah,
their
we saw it.
independence or something, isn't it?
Probably. And then we ate some ice cream kind of next to it.
Yeah,
It was
some
pretty good.
Old ice cream. That ice cream might have been around like the same time that all this was going down.
Literally, it probably was. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Check those out. Link in the description below, those vlogs on TriFit Lifestyle, our travel vlog channel. We plan to go back to Indonesia sometime in 2025, so be ready for that because we have some epic things to do there.
Also, if you made it this far, guys, this video might have an Indonesian dub on it, and we might have Indonesian dubs in the future. So they do that like the little gearbox and the YouTube thing in the bottom right corner of the video. Try it out and rewatch the
Hello.
video again.
I'm Indonesian. Am I sounding like an Indonesian person right now?
Terima kasih.
Now, how is it going to dub that if you say
I
that?
don't know. Probably didn't even know what I said because I probably said it so wrong.
Salamat.
That's all that's the Indonesian we know. Thank you very much.
Borneo.
Java.
All right, see you later. Bye.